whenever you are ready.
Hey guys, we're Team CXA and we're doing our presentation on Aramark, which is the on-campus meal plan place for students to eat and stuff. Team CXA consists of Heather Miller, Katie Guerin, Ashley Lambert, Carrie Frazier, Alex Wolf, Jenny Bartell, and myself, Amanda Bolden. Their website states that they are a leader in professional services, which provides award-winning food services, facilities management, and uniform and career apparel to healthcare institutions, universities and school districts, stadiums and arenas, and businesses around the world. Aramark has won many awards over the years, including Fortune's Most Admired Company, Business Week's Best Place to Launch a Career, and Ethisphere's Most Ethical Company in 2011. Aramark provides services in nearly every industry, including business and professional, and serves over 600 colleges and institutions in the United States. The current meal plan policy on campus is the meal week starts on Sunday and goes through Saturday, but invalid during major breaks such as winter break and spring break and summer break. Meals typically are used in the marketplace, but can be used in the atrium, allowing $2.55 for breakfast and $3.80 for lunch and dinner. In the marketplace where the meals are basically used, the meals will actually cost about $7 for lunch and $8 for dinner. All dining dollars expire at the end of the spring semester, and dining dollars are extra dollars that you purchase with a meal plan that helps you get such as like water and Coke and stuff from the Treehouse or Buckmart, or you can use it going towards food in the atrium. Now Jenny will speak on our student survey we conducted.
Since students are the main consumers for Aramark here at ETSU, we felt it was really important to get their opinions and see how they felt about the current policies that Aramark is using for the meal plans. In order to get a better understanding, we conducted a survey and we got results from 60 different students here on campus who have meal plans this semester. We asked the students how they felt about a number of issues, including the current dining hours, the time restrictions for using your meal plans, the overall quality of the food options offered on campus, and finally, students are asked to rank their overall satisfaction with campus dining on a scale of 1 to 10. Our results from the survey were pretty eye-opening because they showed that the majority of students were unsatisfied with their campus dining experiences for a number of reasons. Of all the responses we received, the most common complaints that we were hearing over and over were that the atrium should be open on weekends to benefit on-campus residents. Students are unsatisfied with the food options offered at the marketplace. There was a lack of healthy alternatives to the marketplace. Meal equivalencies between the marketplace and the other on-campus locations were unfair. Prices in the atrium are too high. Time limitations for using meal plans cause inconvenience for students. This consists of the fact that meals don't roll over from week to week. So if a student is paying for 10 meals a week and they only use 8, then on Saturday, the other 2 meals are thrown away. And a lot of students felt that this is unfair because they're paying for the 2 meals, so they don't like to see them getting wasted. This also includes the fact that during each meal block, like breakfast, students can only use 1 meal plan. During lunch, they can only use 1, etc. And we felt that these are the main problems that we wanted to bring to Aramark's attention. And with that being said, Heather is going to talk about Aramark's stance on these issues.
Would you lock that door, please? Thank you.
Okay. For Aramark's considerations, we had conducted an interview with Brittany Collins, who is a marketing manager of dining services at ETSU, which means that she is an Aramark executive employee. And we wanted to talk to her about the students' concerns based off of the survey that we did do with them. We had 4 main concerns, and the first one was why there's not as many meal plans or meal options available on the weekends. Her response was there is not enough students on campus to facilitate the labor costs and the food costs that it would take. One of her suggestions is that in the future there will be, ETSU is working to have more activities for the weekend. so there might be more meal options available as they have more activities and more traffic on campus. Another one of their concerns was the rollover from week to week. Meal plans don't roll over from one week to the next. And her response to that was ETSU covers the meal plans more than Airmark. Airmark covers day-to-day meal adjustments and what they have for the meals, but ETSU covers the meal plans and how much they cost and what they do with them. And her response was that ETSU feels that maybe the parents want to have some kind of knowledge that their children do have meals that are available from week to week, and that changes might be made to that as well. Another consideration is that the variances in meal options and their equivalency, and Brittany mentioned that there is no equivalency, and that the meal options in the atrium, or in the atrium, are more of a bonus, and they're different from the meal options in other places. And students, we also asked her if students get what they pay for, and she suggested that they do. Her opinion is that they do, and she feels that other universities, they charge more for their meal plans, and so students are paying more, and they're not getting the same advantages that ETSU students are. She said that this could change, but it once again is ETSU policy, and she has been working since she started there to change that policy. And when she first started there 2 years ago, it was very different for commuters and more expensive. So she's trying to change all of that. Now we will go to Ashley to talk about our secondary research and primary research.
So I'm going to be talking about the actual proposal that we're making here, but first I'm just kind of going to touch on the research that went into forming our proposal. So like Jenny and Heather have talked about, we did a student satisfaction survey to just kind of figure out what students were unhappy about with their current meal plan systems. We also did an interview with a student employee at an Aramark dining location and talked to her about the difficulties of contacting Aramark and like getting in touch with them. And then finally it took us quite a while to secure our interview with the Aramark corporate employee. But once we were able to talk to her, she actually gave us a lot of really good information that Heather just talked about, that the problems that are happening, the negative perceptions that students have are not necessarily things that Aramark has control over. A lot of them are university decisions also. But like I said, it did take us a really long time to secure that interview. So then we went into our secondary research, and we found a couple of articles from the East Tennessean to see how Aramark is interacting on this campus. And the articles that we found talked about recently, well, in 2009, Aramark re-upped its contract with ETSU, and they signed on for a 10-year commitment. So until 2019, Aramark will remain ETSU's primary food service provider. And in February of this year, an Aramark representative came and proposed a mandatory buy-in option for meal plans. This would result in, I think, a 4.4 increase in tuition, or something like that. And it was met with a lot of resistance. They presented it to the Student Government Association, and there were students present also. So that decision is still kind of being talked about. And then we just kind of wanted to figure out, I guess, just some general information about meal plan, the advantages of them. So we found this article about how meal plans for students are a positive thing because it can ensure that they can get the proper nutrition that they need, and it's kind of taking the work out of it for students if they have a meal plan that they can rely on. And then there was another survey about a another university food service provider, and they did a study to figure out the factors that influence their customer satisfaction. And so all of the elements that went into that are pretty much what you would think, like the locations, the food prices, the food quality, all of that. And when you can balance all these things out and have them work together, it increases your customer satisfaction, which leads to higher enrollment rates in meal plans and also higher retention rates. So like if you had a mandatory, well actually I think right now the meal plans are mandatory for your freshman year, but if you live on campus past that, people would still choose to enroll in meal plans because they feel like they're getting taken care of. So with that being said, we started looking at everything that we heard from the students and everything that we had talked about. And we realized that it's just not feasible to address all the student problems that they had discussed. And so we decided that really the main issue that Aramark has on campus is that they have a total lack of communication with the student body. Like I said, it was really difficult for us to acquire an interview with them. We actually didn't even get in with them until yesterday morning, and we had to go and like camp out. And a lot of the issues that the students had addressed, like I said previously, are things that Aramark doesn't necessarily have control over. So we feel that if they had a better system of communication with the student body and just let people know, the logistics behind their decisions, people might not be so unsatisfied. So the current system of communication is ineffective, and our proposed policy change is an open door communication policy between Aramark and its student customers. Ideally, we would like for this change to be effective during the next school year, and the idea that we've come up with is to have a panel of 2 to 3 student liaisons who would work in conjunction with the Aramark office and the Aramark corporate employees that are on campus to just kind of bridge that gap that exists between Aramark and its customers currently. Some of the things that we've proposed that these students would be responsible for is obviously they would have to go through training to familiarize themselves with all the policies and procedures and everything. And they would basically just be like a talking Aramark dictionary. So when students come to the Aramark office, they have a resource there, somebody to talk to, and they don't have to, email 5 different people or, feel like they're not being heard. Currently, there are customer satisfaction cards in the marketplace where you can fill out and make suggestions or complaints or anything like that. But it's our understanding that nothing really gets done with those. Their follow-up on those is really inconsistent. So one of the student duties would be to follow up, to go through the student complaints, figure out what's going on, what the students are thinking, and then they would follow up on that with the students, and then also give the results of those to the Aramark corporate company. And then they would be responsible for going around to different dining locations, maybe about 3 or 4 times a year, to survey students and do it that way because we did take into account that not everybody's going to fill out a comment card or a complaint card. So we thought that they could go around and do face-to-face surveys just really quickly to find out how people are feeling about the dining options. And then, like I said, they would be just a liaison between Aramark and its student customers to just kind of bridge that communication gap that is definitely there currently. And so now Carrie's going to talk to you about the advantages and the disadvantages of our proposal.
All right. To begin, the advantages of our new policy would allow customers to give feedback on Aramark's current system, being that if they have complaints or any concerns, they would be able to express either that or their positive feedback, and that would allow Aramark to modify the areas in which people have the most concern with. I think most of those would probably be seen with the equivalency and the pricing of the meal plans. I saw a lot of complaints about those. And then that would allow increased customer satisfaction because customers would feel that being able to express their opinions and give their feedback, that maybe something could be done about the current system. And this would ultimately increase student enrollment for Aramark because students would be giving them positive feedback as well as telling other students how much they've tried to improve. I'll move on to the disadvantages by saying that increasing staff expenses would be one of the main disadvantages of our new policy change because the 2 to 3 student liaisons would, I don't think it would make a big difference, but it would increase the staff expenses. I don't think it would be enough to really, I think the benefits of the liaisons would be better than the actual expenses itself. But, and then Aramark would have to put forth more effort to communicate with their customers, which is, in communication is something that they lack in general. So I think that would be one of the most inconveniences for them and one of the biggest disadvantages. Now Katie's going to talk about the feasibility and limitations of the new policy change.
Okay, for feasibility, we felt that this proposal is highly feasible for Aramark, especially with the student liaison position because the whole campus has 15,000 students and a lot of them need jobs. So, if they put that out there as a student work position, they already have people working as students for their marketing, so why can they not add 2 or 3 more people to take in that feedback instead of just trying to sell meal plans? It would make it much more feasible for the Aramark company if it were turned into a federal work study position, which would be through the university and financial aid. So if it were to be a federal work study position, then Aramark wouldn't even actually have to pay those students for that position. So they wouldn't be losing any money, or the payout for their employees wouldn't be increasing at all. Limitations for the proposal would be if Aramark was actually cooperating with the policy. That would be the major thing, is if they wouldn't cooperate with this and wouldn't increase their communication. And secondly, if they did go ahead and hire the student liaison panel, but however didn't listen to their input as much as they should be, the students could be taking in information from the student body and proposing it to Aramark, but then Aramark might not take that into consideration. Measurable objectives that we have for our proposed plan, an increased enrollment in student meal plans. If there's a rise in meal plans after this proposal is taken into effect, then we can only assume that it is helping and that it is creating more of a communication between students and Aramark, and that those problems are being taken care of and understood between students and Aramark. The second thing is the increased student satisfaction, which obviously would be a little bit harder to measure if people weren't filling out the comment cards. But you could measure that through the comment cards, and then also the where Ashley was saying the students would actually go out to the different dining locations and speak with the students one-on-one, surveying them, and that sort of thing. So those two things, if those showed increases, then it would show that our proposal is definitely being put into effect. So now Alex is going to conclude our proposal.
In conclusions, it's very impractical to address the individual concerns of the students. To begin with, you're not going to please everybody when it comes to something as simple as meal plan. People are always going to complain. But something that is very easy to do is improve communication. That way the students are going to feel like they are better heard, and Aramark has more input from the student body, which they claim is one of their biggest concerns. Improving communication hopefully would improve enrollment in the meal plan. That could in turn improve quality. If you get more people, more money going into the program, all of that stuff is just going to get easier to do from their position. That's about sums it up for our presentation. Does anybody have questions?
First round of applause, and then we can get to discussion. Okay, questions?
Yeah.
Did you guys consider, for the 2 to 3 students who would be the liaisons, did you guys consider having them as interns, like unpaid interns, through Airmark?
We
As
did
a
discuss
marketing
that because
research?
we thought that it would be a good thing to just put on a resume anyway, and we thought about selling it that way. But then we had the work study idea, and so ideally that would be how it would go, just because, you know, you need some kind of payout. We are expecting them to do a lot of things. They'll have to learn a lot of information, and they'll also be responsible for keeping up with a lot of things. So we just thought that making it a work study position would.
We also Twitter out the fact because in the summer, Aramark is busy with trying to impress the new students coming in at orientations. So if they did have interns, they could, have business major interns that could help promote, or public relations or anything communication, to help promote Aramark to the students for summer orientations, and would help their, with the preview and orientation stuff, go more smoothly.
But I need to know, what is the procedure for getting a work study approved?
You have to qualify for it. When you fill out your FAFSA.
No, I mean for a department or from an organizational standpoint, because it's not just a matter of.
Yeah,
you have to get one approved.
Yeah, we are not sure about that.
Yeah, you would have to know. I mean, because that is that's potentially a bureaucratic nightmare.
Yeah.
Right there, I can tell you.
That's the federal work study is our ideal way for it to work out. Obviously, if we're trying to have the liaison panel by the 2012 fall school year, we're not going to have that in place. So that's why we discussed in the disadvantages that it would be a monetary disadvantage for a little while at least.
I would be interested in you actually presenting that idea to Aramark, but you would have to know, you can't present them with a solution that may not be feasible, that they may shoot it down, because then you build a straw man argument. You give them something that they go, I reject that, so they reject the overall argument. I agree with Brittany. I wish you would consider it a bit. Talk through more why you didn't consider heavily consider the internship opportunity.
Well, we also had, besides just the internship, we thought about it being sort of like an SGA sort of position. We thought that.
What does that mean, Jenny?
Like the students will elect the liaisons. That would be good because there would be competition and campaigning. But when we came up with the work study, we also, we figured that would benefit the students more because they have more to put on their resume and it would look better. So,
With work study, you also have a monetary benefit as well as just you were elected to an SGA cabinet, because you would get paid for the semester for the work that you're going to put in. So I think that's really the big reason why we did say federal work study, because you do get paid for it. And students now, it's hard to find jobs, so this would be another way for them to get extra money.
Because it's hard to incite, especially with so much, it's hard to get students involved on this campus as well. And so we just thought that the monetary aspect of it would help incite. Because if we have the panel and nobody applies for it because it's unpaid, then it's not really going to help us at all.
Yeah, but again, I want you to poke yourself. You should, whatever solution that you give, you have to poke holes through it, because the problem is you have continuity problems. Is that the work study students would be gone every semester. Our work study students do not last. They sometimes last the semester and then they're gone. So how do you train them? Because you said we have them doing a lot of stuff. So what are you going to do about training and then disseminating that information every single semester? And how is that going to? This is all your solutions, so you don't have to just look at action.
That they would be gone every semester. Do you mean for the breaks?
Like that they
or
would
when
have
graduate?
to, like,
Well,
would
they
maybe
change
have
out. Work study students don't necessarily stay there entire, and thank you for clarifying that, they don't stay there the entire 4 years necessarily.
We hadn't really considered that, but maybe we could have them like,
Well, with the
Sign a
student
contract
liaison,
or something.
because I mean, whenever in my work study, I did have to sign a contract for it,
Okay.
and I was
This
there.
is better.
And I was there for 2 semesters, so a full school year, fall and spring. And I had to get trained as well. So I believe that in any work study position, you will have to get trained. But our student liaison position is not an actual Airmark employee. So what they would be doing is being the communication, because like we said, it was really hard for us to get an interview just for information about Airmark.
It's actually, they're not allowed to interview unless they go through the corporate office. So
And-
the only reason we got in an interview is I said that this wasn't a public forum, it was a presentation to a class specifically for a group project.
So if you had the student liaisons there, then they could give you this information, and that can also help us with our proposed plan to help see if it is going to be measurable, because we would have the extra students there to help us, and I believe that students will be more willing to talk to other students.
What, anybody do federal work study in here? I'm just wondering, what's the longest that you've done a job for?
I've been in mine for 4 years.
Okay, so there is precedent, but that is the thing, is that you have to keep in mind.
never know.
You admitted that you're going to have to learn Airmark. You're going to have to learn these intricate procedures. Then you're going to have to also the communication skills.
I
So
know that
that's
with
necessarily.
federal work study, they do interview for positions as well. So if they did go by qualifications and you had a good interviewer, then you would be able to hire somebody who already possessed the good communication skills. So.
Sarah, you had a question?
I was just wondering if when you guys talked, I know that it was really hard to talk to them and stuff, but when you did talk to them, did they mention any kind of student internships or positions that they do
No.
with you guys? Because just an idea, I have received an email from housing about something that they do in the summertime where they pay during the summertime, and it's almost considered like an internship, and it could be something like that but extended for you guys, because it is someone that does less than what Amanda was saying about the orientations, but that it's the basis, but not as detailed as you
They
guys
would
want.
do the bulletin boards and stuff, because we actually researched into that too. And with the internship, if they did get it credited, then it would count. I know that in my personal internship, I had to have a credit. It was a class that I had to take, and you had to have a certain number of hours, so that could go towards.
Say that again. In your internship, you had to say that again.
I had a summer internship, which would be equivalent to the summer internship here. I had to have a certain number of hours, which added up, and you have a supervisor, and it goes towards your 3 credits for the internship. Or I know some majors it's 12 credits, where they have to have, I think, 480 hours throughout the semester for 12 credit hours. But with that, if it got credited and the departments accepted it, then that'd be another way for their students in the department to gain their internship.
Yeah, that would be something that you guys could expand on for what y'all are talking about.
Maybe you spoke to this detail, and forgive me if I missed it, but I guess I'm just thinking through motivations on their behalf to actually do it. Did they speak toward losing people who are subscribed to them to come through for meal plans between the first and second semester due to dissatisfaction? Or do they just have a number of people who express dissatisfaction but are still using their services?
They didn't have those numbers for us, or they weren't willing to give us those numbers.
Do you need the first and second, between fall and spring? If you sign on for a meal plan for fall, your contract doesn't end until the end of spring, so you have to stay. So if you're unsatisfied in the fall, you're kind of stuck.
But I am curious, and Shauna, and we've got to move on to the next presentation. So the question is, what is the loss between, let's say, freshman year who signs up sophomore year than junior. I'd love to see
They didn't
that.
have those numbers for us. I also asked them how many meals are paid for on a weekly basis and how many meals actually get cashed in, like via the cards, and they were unwilling to give us those numbers either.
Because Lindsay just did hers for the fall, and she and I both were using her buck dining dollars the last 2 weeks of school trying to get like $150 eaten.
Right.
So I ate a lot of Quiznos. That was
Right.
pretty neat, but I
Yeah.
was just curious.
And the dining dollars is what they really promoted on as well, because they say if you buy our meal plan, you get an extra free $200 dining dollars.
But you lose it all.
Yeah,
It's mad.
because the dining dollars, you can't keep those going because you do have to use them. But the meals, and that's another thing, one of our biggest complaints was the meal equivalencies. Because, like I said in the presentation, for lunch you would pay $7 just to eat up there if you didn't have a meal plan, or you could use your meal. But if you were craving Chick-fil-A, you'd only get $3.80 out of the $7 that you are really paying for the meal upstairs. So, yeah, I think that they do know the dissatisfaction among the campus, because there has been articles like written about it, and
Also, like
complaints.
when he was at the SGA meeting doing the proposal, there were students there, and there was a lot of dissatisfaction expressed at that time.
Okay, let's wrap up. Thank you very much. I really wish you would consider doing something with that. Sounds like sounds like it has a lot of potential. Okay, thank you. Okay, Team Disney. I just. Now, would someone please poke your head out the door, because now if you walk out, we've got to get going. So that means I know.